Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. I never imagined my life would come crashing down in a single night. It was supposed to be one of the happiest times of my life, just days away from welcoming my daughter into the world. My bags were packed for the hospital, the nursery was painted in soft pastels, and my heart overflowed with excitement. But then he came home, and everything shattered. Ethan stood in the doorway, his suit impeccable as always, his tie slightly loosened as if he'd had a long day at court. But something was different. His eyes, those deep brown eyes that once held warmth and promise, were cold, distant. "We need to talk," he said. The words slithered through the air, tightening around my chest like a noose. I swallowed. "'Kay. What's wrong?" He sighed, rubbing his temples as though what he was about to say was exhausting him more than it would destroy me. "I can't do this anymore, Sarah. I don't want this life. I don't want to." The floor beneath me felt unsteady. My fingers clutched the edge of the kitchen counter, trying to anchor myself in a reality that had just cracked wide open. What are you saying?" "I regret everything," he continued, his voice devoid of emotion. "Marrying you, this baby. I made a mistake." "Mistake?" I gasped, my breath hitching, my hands instinctively moving to my swollen belly. The baby, our baby, kicked inside me as if she too could sense the storm raging outside the sanctuary of my body. "You don't mean that," I whispered, shaking my head. Ethan's jaw clenched. "Do. I should have listened to my parents, to my friends. We rushed into this. And I don't love you, Sarah. I don't think I ever did." I staggered back. The room spun. I had known we'd had our struggles. Every couple did. But this was not a fight. This was a death sentence. "Please," I begged, tears blurring my vision. "Ethan, we can fix this. Whatever it is, we can." "I don't want to fix it." His voice was like steel, sharp and unyielding. "I want you gone. I've already spoken to my lawyer. I'll take care of the paperwork. You don't need to worry about anything. Except leaving." "Leaving?" I looked around our home, the photos on the walls, the furniture we picked out together, the crib we assembled just last weekend. It all felt like a cruel joke now. I clenched my jaw, swallowing the sob threatening to escape. "And the baby? Do you not care about your own child?" His lips pressed into a thin line. "I don't want to be a father. You can raise her however you want. I won't interfere." The finality in his voice crushed me. He meant every word. He was done. Tears streamed down my face as I grabbed my bag. I didn't even know where I would go. I had no family nearby, no savings of my own. I had trusted Ethan with everything. And now I had nothing. As I stepped out into the cold night, the reality settled in. I was alone. And I was about to bring a child into the world without a home, without a father, without any idea of how we would survive. Years later, I didn't realize I was holding my breath until the sound of applause erupted through the auditorium. I exhaled slowly, my hands trembling as I clutched the program in my lap. My daughter Lily stood confidently on stage, her hands gripping the edges of the podium as she finished her speech. "Single mothers don't just survive," she said, her voice clear, powerful. "They thrive. They build worlds from nothing. They raise warriors. And I am living proof of that." Another wave of applause. Some in the audience were wiping their tears. My own vision blurred as emotion swelled in my chest. I had spent years struggling, working multiple jobs, sacrificing sleep, happiness, everything for her. I never wanted her to feel like she lacked anything, even though the world had made it painfully clear that we were on our own. And yet here she was, strong, resilient, unbreakable. The speech competition was broadcasted nationally, and as Lily stepped down from the stage, she was greeted by reporters, congratulating her on her powerful words. I smiled, proud beyond words. Then my phone rang. I frowned, glancing down at the unknown number. And when I answered, the last voice I ever expected to hear came through. "Sarah," Ethan's voice was hoarse, urgent. "Please. I need to see you." I need to see our daughter. Cold wave washed over me. My grip on the phone tightened. It had been 16 years since I last heard that voice. And now, just when my daughter had stood in front of the entire country, speaking about how she never needed a father, he was suddenly reaching out. I exhaled, my heart pounding. Why? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. There was a pause. I made a mistake, he finally said. A terrible mistake. A bitter laugh bubbled in my throat. You're going to have to be a lot more specific than that, Ethan. Another silence. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said something that made my entire world shift. Something that made my blood run cold. Something I never saw coming. I never wanted to leave you. But I didn't have a choice. The words hung in the air like a noose tightening around my past. I never wanted to leave you. But I didn't have a choice. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hurl the phone across the room. But most of all, I wanted answers. You didn't have a choice. I repeated, my voice dangerously low. Ethan, you stood in front of me and told me you regretted everything. That you never loved me. That our child was a mistake. He exhaled shakily. I know, said that. And I will never forgive myself for it. A scoff escaped my lips. Forgive yourself. My voice dripped with venom. You think I care whether you forgive yourself? Please, Sarah. His voice cracked. Just meet with me. I need to explain. I glanced at Lily across the room, still beaming as she spoke to a journalist. Her eyes bright, full of life. She had built herself without him. She had become everything he abandoned. I don't owe you anything, I hissed. Silence. And then, I have proof. My breath caught. Proof of what? Long pause. Then, in a voice so low it sent a chill down my spine, Ethan said, that I never wanted to leave you. That someone forced me to. Froze. No, I whispered, shaking my head. You're lying. Sarah, please, he begged. There are things you don't know. Things I found out too late. But I swear to you, I never wanted to walk away from you or from Lily. Meet with me, and I'll show you the truth. The truth. I wanted to tell him to go to hell. That he had already made his choice. That I didn't care. But I did care. Because if there was even the smallest chance that what he was saying was true, I needed to know. I didn't say another word before hanging up. I agreed to meet him the next day, though every nerve in my body screamed at me not to. He was already waiting when I arrived at the cafe. I almost didn't recognize him. His once sharp suit was replaced by a slightly wrinkled blazer. His neatly styled hair now had streaks of gray, and the confidence that once radiated from him was gone. For a moment, I felt nothing but anger. 16 years. 16 years of struggle, of loneliness, of raising a child without him. And now he sat there, looking at me like a man with regrets too heavy to carry. I pulled out the chair and sat across from him, my expression unreadable. Talk. He swallowed hard. Sarah, before I say anything, I just need you to know. I love our daughter. I always have. A sharp laugh escaped me. Don't you dare say that. You don't get to claim love for someone you abandoned before she even took her first breath. He nodded, eyes full of something I couldn't place. Shame, grief, maybe both. I deserve that. But I swear to you, Sarah, I never wanted to leave. I was forced to. Clenched my jaw. By who? Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash drive, placing it on the table between us. My parents. A chill ran down my spine. I had always known his parents disapproved of me. They thought I wasn't good enough for their son, the brilliant young lawyer destined for greatness. But Ethan had chosen me anyway. He had married me despite them. What are you talking about? I demanded. He ran a hand through his graying hair, exhaling heavily. Sarah, when I married you, I went against everything they wanted for me. My father, he was furious. But when I told him you were pregnant, he changed. He looked at me then. His eyes filled with something almost like fear. He told me he accepted it. That he would fix things for me. My blood ran cold. What did he do, Ethan? His hands trembled slightly as he picked up the flash drive. He didn't just want me to leave you, Sarah. He needed me to. And he was willing to destroy everything to make sure I did. I swallowed hard. Explain. Now. Ethan leaned forward. My father wasn't just rich. He had power, real power. The kind that could ruin lives. He told me that if I didn't leave you, he would ruin you. He would make sure you never worked again, that you lost everything, that you and the baby would have no chance to survive. My breath hitched. That's ridiculous. He wasn't bluffing. His voice cracked. Sarah, he planted evidence against you. And blinked. What? Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. He fabricated documents, made it look like you stole money from my firm. And if I didn't agree to leave you, he was going to file charges and have you arrested. I stared at him, my heartbeat thunderous in my ears. You're lying, I said, but the words felt weak. He shook his head. It's all on that flash drive. Emails, financial records. Everything he forged to make it look like you were guilty. I was numb. They were going to arrest you the day after I left, he whispered. But when I walked away, he destroyed the evidence and let you go. It was a test. Punishment. And I failed. The room felt suffocating. I gripped the edge of the table, my mind spinning. You're telling me, my voice shook, that you let me suffer. Let me think you didn't love me. Let me struggle alone. All because your father threatened me with lies. Ethan looked down, shame written across his face. I thought I was protecting you. Tears blurred my vision, but they weren't from sadness. They were from pure, unfiltered rage. You coward, I hissed. You let me believe I was worthless. That our daughter was nothing to you. And all along you knew the truth. I was scared, he whispered. Scared. I stood up so fast the chair screeched against the floor. I was homeless. I worked 3 jobs while raising a child. And you, my voice broke. You let me believe it was my fault. Ethan swallowed hard. No. And I will never be able to undo what I did. But please, don't let our daughter hate me without knowing the truth. I laughed bitterly. Oh, Ethan, you don't have to worry about that. His expression softened for a fraction of a second. Sarah picked up the flash drive. Because I'm going to make sure she knows exactly what kind of man you are. I turned and walked away. As I stepped out of the cafe, the weight of 16 years of betrayal settled on my shoulders. But this time I wasn't just a woman left behind. I was a woman with the truth. And I would decide what to do with it. I sat in my car, gripping the flash drive so tightly my knuckles turned white. 16 years. 16 years of pain, struggle, and loneliness. All because of a lie. A manufactured betrayal. A deliberate, cruel act of control by a man who never wanted me in his son's life. I should have thrown the flash drive out the window. I should have stomped it into the pavement and never looked back. But I couldn't. Because this wasn't just my story anymore. This was Lily's too. That night I watched the files. Emails between Ethan's father and a team of lawyers, crafting the perfect false narrative. Altered financial records. Timestamps proving manipulation. A fake bank account under my name, designed to look like I had stolen money from Ethan's firm. Every detail was precise, flawless, and terrifying. The final email was the worst. Subject: finalizing the arrangement. From Charles Whitmore. To Ethan Whitmore. Ethan, by now you should understand the consequences of your actions. You are a Whitmore, not some desperate fool throwing his future away for a mistake. We've covered your mess. The charges will disappear, but so will she. She and the child are no longer your concern. Don't contact her. Don't try to fix this. If you do, the next time she falls, I won't be there to catch her. Do the right thing. Walk away. See Whitmore. I slammed the laptop shut, my chest heaving. It was real. Ethan hadn't just abandoned me. He had been forced to. And for 16 years he had kept this secret, choosing to let me hate him rather than fight back. Coward. I wiped my tears away, my hands trembling. There was only one question left. What do I do now? The next morning, I sat across from my daughter at the kitchen table. Lily was bright. She was sharp. And most importantly, she never let anyone control her. "Mom," she asked, eyeing me curiously. "You're scaring me. What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "It's about your father." Her expression hardened. "What about him?" I reached for the flash drive. "I found out why he left." Lily crossed her arms. "I don't care." "You should," I said softly. She hesitated. "Why?" Exhaled. "Because it wasn't his choice." She frowned. "What?" I handed her the flash drive. "Watch this." For the next hour, I sat in silence as my daughter watched her own history unfold. I saw the disbelief, the shock, the rage flicker across her face. And finally, when the last email appeared, tears welled in her eyes. "He let them do this," she whispered. "He let them ruin our lives." I reached for her hand. "I don't expect you to forgive him. I don't even know if I can. But I thought you deserved to know the truth." Lily stared at the screen, jaw clenched. Then she did something that shocked me. She stood and grabbed her phone. "What are you doing?" I asked. She lifted her chin, her voice steady. "I'm going to see him." Ethan opened the door, looking like he hadn't slept in days. The second he saw Lily standing there, his breath hitched. "Lily," his voice cracked. She didn't say a word at first, just stared at him as if she were seeing a ghost. Then slowly she spoke. "You let them take everything from us," she said, her voice controlled but sharp. "And you did nothing." Ethan swallowed hard. "I thought I was protecting you." Lily's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Oh, you were protecting yourself." A long silence. Then her voice broke. "You should have fought for us." Ethan's entire body sagged. His eyes glistened. "I know." For the first time I saw him for what he truly was. Not a villain. Not a monster. But a broken man drowning in his own regrets. Lily turned to leave. But then she hesitated. "I don't know if I'll ever forgive you," she admitted. "But I needed to hear you say it." Ethan nodded. "I don't deserve forgiveness." She exhaled. "Oh, you don't." And then, without another word, she walked away. I followed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Because we weren't just victims of Ethan's choices anymore. We were survivors. And for the first time in 16 years, we were free. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.